Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. Well, guys, you can tell by the thumbnail what we're going to talk about today. The elephant can be in the middle of the room, but does the narcissist see it? Does the narcissist acknowledge it? Heck no. Narcissists be like, what elephant, right? And it's really something because it's insulting to target's intelligence. Something could be right in front of the narcissist and they're like, where, what? I don't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. They act dumb. And it really tells you the disturbed mental state of the narcissist when they start denying extremely obvious things, like the elephant in the middle of the room. And of course, that's a metaphor for, huge obstacles that the narcissist doesn't address in relationships, or offenses that they've committed that they just completely deny, or happenings that the narcissist says never happened. So let's go over here the ways that narcissists deny the elephant in the room. Let's talk about that. Number one, they pretend there's no problem, guys, right? Even if it's screamingly obvious, okay, and in their face, they will deny it. They'll say, number one, that never happened. So they flat out rewrite reality, guys. Even if you have proof, even if you're waving a photo of them doing something that they're denying in their face, they will still deny it. They don't care what proof you have. You can have text messages, phone calls, their signature on something, photographs, doesn't matter. They will still look at you dumbfounded and do this whole denial dance that's really disturbing, right? They stare blankly at you and say, no, that's not what happened. You're wrong. And they really act like they believe themselves. It's very scary, right? But if you've ever seen a narcissist do this, it's like they really believe their lies sometimes. It's classic gaslighting. That's what it is, guys. They know what they're doing. They know they're gaslighting you. They try to keep calm, cool, and collected and act like they honestly don't remember. So you can feel like the unstable one. So you will doubt your reality. Gaslighting is mental abuse in the DSM, guys. It's serious. So that is gaslighting, where they just look at you and they deny it's themselves in the photograph when it clearly is, or they deny that's their text message when it clearly is, or they deny something that you saw because you were there as a witness. They will tell you it never happened, having you question your, senses of, sight and hearing and your reality. So very sick behavior when they do that. Number two, the number two way that they'll deny the elephant in the room, they'll say that you're just too sensitive, right? They minimize your reaction, and it's to shift the focus away from their behavior, guys. The real issue becomes your emotions and your reaction, and not their horrible action that they did, or their offense, right? It becomes all about your reaction. You're the crazy one because you're reacting to what they did. It's typical of narcissists. They do this all the time. Number three, they'll accuse you of talking about the past when you bring up the elephant in the middle of the room, right? They'll say, I don't want to talk about it. It's the past. Or that happened a while ago. Why are you bringing it up? Well, it's because it's still an elephant in the middle of the room. It still hasn't been discussed. It still hasn't been addressed. And, the target's usually still reeling from a lot of offenses that the narcissist just doesn't feel like addressing. And when you try to put closure on those occurrences or those heinous actions of the narcissist and try to make them accountable, well, then they'll accuse you of wanting to talk about the past. If they accuse you of bringing up the past and it's still happening and it's repeat behavior, it's the present. I got news for you. You may want to remind them of that. Another way that narcissists deny the elephant in the room is saying that you're overreacting. Okay. They'll mock your pain to make the issue sound small. If they've totally betrayed you or were cruel or extremely neglectful or disappeared and did an MIA or whatever, they'll downgrade your trauma so they can escape guilt. They'll, use the words little and small or just, right? It was just this, it was just a little, like that. And those words are used to downplay the offense. So you feel like you're overreacting. They'll accuse you of overreacting, but actually they know it was a huge thing. They're just trying to avoid accountability and downplay it by making you feel like you're overreacting when you're not. Usually there's huge offenses that were committed that the narcissist is just wanting you to forget about. They just want you to have amnesia and let's just move on, right? But unless it gets addressed, those offenses keep piling up. And like I said, it's not the past at that point, it's the present, guys. Another way that a narcissist will deny the elephant in the room is they'll say, well, that's not what I meant, or you heard wrong, right? They'll twist intent after the fact to sanitize the harm. They just want to purify themselves, and they'll say, well, I just wanted to help you, or I just wanted to give you space, or I just wanted, again, they'll use the just word a lot to minimize it, and they'll make it sound like they're helping you and that they meant something different than what it really was. Or they'll say, I was joking. That's another one. Or you took it wrong. Or no, you're twisting my words. I said this. You may have heard it, but they were just joking. Didn't you hear how he was or she was joking? And they weren't joking, but they'll try to say they had different intentions. The sixth way narcissists deny the elephant in the room is, they'll just try to humble themselves down and say, well, everybody makes mistakes or we're all human. And it's a way to generalize their wrongdoing and their offense. They'll make it sound like everybody does it, or I'm just human. I make mistakes, and I'm just like everybody else. And you know, why can't you see I'm not perfect? Type of thing. Like that's another way of saying, stop holding me accountable. Basically, that's all that is, right? Now, the seventh way, guys, that narcissists deny the elephant in the room is they'll hide behind their Christianity, right, and their spirituality, instead of being repentant and acknowledging what they've done and trying to resolve the issue and trying to be a better person. They'll just hide behind their spirituality and quoting scriptures and Bible verses that have nothing to do with what the offense was, and they'll avoid admitting what they did, but they'll, say something like, I have my own relationship with God, and they don't need to change their ways at all. you know. So it's a way of hiding behind their Christianity or appearing Christian. But we all know as Christians, you need to repent and you need to ask for forgiveness and be accountable for your sin. And the narcissist isn't. How do they dodge, talking about the elephant in the middle of the room? And you know what I mean, again, by the elephant, it's the major issue in the relationship or the offense or series of multiple offenses that they've committed against you that they won't admit to or apologize for. How do they dodge talking about it? How do they dance around the elephant without admitting it's there? Well, it's just their way of deflecting. If it's about what they did, obviously they'll project on you and say, well, remember when you did this? Or they'll say, well, what about your attitude? Or you made me do this. That's another big one. How many of you heard that? Put it in the comments below. You made me lie. You made me do this. That's deflection, guys. That's one of the ways that they dodge around the elephant is deflection. The other way, as I said, is projection. They'll accuse you of stuff and point out all of your flaws when the topic at hand was all the offenses they did that they've never admitted to. They'll start digging up things and things that you never, ever were guilty of just to make you feel bad. They'll accuse you of everything they're doing, basically. Whatever you accuse them of, they'll just flip it around and project it on you. The other way that they dance around or dodge around the elephant is by word salad. Now, you know what word salad is. It's all that confusing talk. And watch my video, Crazy Talk, because it discusses the word salad talking. It's all confusing talk, half truths, contradictions, tangents, until you forget the original topic that you wanted to talk about. You walk away thinking, what the heck are they talking about? You have no idea. It's therefore, hereto, whereas, and you, and it keeps coming back to you. And next thing you know, the subject is all about you and, their grievances with you, and nothing that you wanted to talk about was addressed. And certainly not the huge elephant in the middle of the room you wanted to talk about. That's what they do, is they just have a word salad of subjects that they toss around, and your head is just spinning, wondering where they're going to land. What is this about? Where I asked them about this, and they're talking all about what I did in last week and when I was 5 years old, and it goes on and on. You have no idea what they're getting at or what they're talking about, and it's a way to make you feel just completely confused. And that's what the adversary does, is total confusion and playing with your mind. Now, another way that they dodge the elephant in the middle of the room is the charm. They'll use humor, they'll use flirty gestures, they'll just totally go off topic to something to make you laugh. It's just so you forget about the whole thing again. They're masters at that. They just want to deflect and avoid and not be held accountable. Another way that they dodge the elephant in the middle of the room is playing the victim, or they'll try to pout or tell you about their horrible childhood or how they were poor growing up or something like that to gain your sympathy so you feel bad and your nurturing side comes out. And you guys know, you're empaths, that a lot of times that works when all of a sudden, they start mentioning the hard life they had as a child or abuse they suffered or how nobody liked them in school or something. Or they'll use phrases like, well, I guess I'm just a bad guy. I guess that's me. I guess I'm just a horrible person, you know, and instead of talking about the subject again or um, apologizing or having accountability, they'll play the victim and want you to feel bad for them when they're the ones who committed the offenses, right? So watch out for these tactics, guys. Another way, guys, that they'll avoid the elephant in the middle of the room is by rage or intimidation. And these, a lot of times, with a malignant narcissist, they'll explode with anger if you bring up their offense, right? Or if they were deceitful or unfaithful, if you say, hey, this hasn't been resolved and you haven't changed your ways, we need to talk about it. All of a sudden, they'll start screaming and they'll flip it around and get that narcissistic rage going. And it's very intimidating, especially if it's a big narcissist. And if it's a female narcissist, yeah, they will look at you like, they're going to be extremely vindictive, and it can be extremely intimidating to men if they have a female narcissist like that. Like they're going to destroy the guy somehow. So watch out for that. That's the narcissistic rage that can happen if you bring up the elephant in the middle of the room. Uh, Another way that narcissists dodge around the elephant in the middle of the room is they'll have false amnesia. They'll pretend to have amnesia. They suddenly don't remember the event, or I honestly don't recall that. They'll say selective memory and selective memory loss is what they experience. I'm sure you guys have witnessed this. They'll say, no, that's not what happened, or I don't remember that at all. No, you heard wrong. Where do you get this? I never said that. I never did that. I honestly don't recall that. They have amnesia, guys. It's narcissistic amnesia. I think I might have had a video on that. If I don't, I might make one, but I think I already did on narcissistic amnesia. Happens all the time. They have selective memory, and what they don't want to remember, they just don't. Another way they dance around the elephant in the middle of the room is, they spiritually bypass the subject. They'll uh, talk about forgiveness. And why don't we just forget it? Aren't you supposed to forgive? You're supposed to forgive and forget. Well, Christ forgave. Why are you bringing this up? I thought you're a Christian. You're supposed to just forgive and not harbor unforgiveness. So they'll weaponize the Bible against you, and Scripture to make you feel bad and make you feel like a bad Christian, when actually they're just avoiding talking about the elephant in the middle of the room. Um, Another way that they dance around the elephant is they rewrite the ending, okay? Um, they'll totally rewrite the events so they are the hero or the victim, and it's always where you are the person committing the offense. Again, it's a way to project, but they really tell a whole different story that makes them look like the good person always. This is typical. The elephant's in the middle of the room and they're creating a circus all around it, but not even admitting that the elephant's right in the middle of the room. They just don't talk about it. They're never in showing any accountability or remorse for what they do. They avoid the elephant in the middle of the room like the plague. They dance around it, come up with all of these manipulations that I just read you guys to avoid the topic of being accountable for all of their heinous crimes against the target and other people in their life. They just won't go there. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always your fault. You're too emotional. You're living in the past. You're too sensitive. Why can't you just forget it? And your ears don't work and your eyes don't work. That's according to the narcissist. Now, what you have to know, guys, is your eyes work just fine and your ears work just fine. You know what you know. And as I said, the Holy Spirit will, kind of knock you over the head somehow and let you know what the truth is. honestly, if it's repeat evil, if it's repeat deception, if it's repeat manipulation and confusion, constant confusion and fear and anxiety that they're inducing in other people, then they have a demonic spirit in them. It's not because of a brain abnormality, or a disorder. This is coming from the pits of hell to play with your mental state. We know Satan always goes after good people's minds and their health. And we know being with a narcissist absolutely affects your health. It wears you out, it tires you out. You can only take so much of this mental abuse. And many times there's physical abuse as well. Some narcissists are extremely violent when you bring up the subject of the elephant in the middle of the room, whatever it may be. They go ballistic. They have narcissistic rage, and many lash out physically as well. So always keep safe and learn how to gray rock, guys, and watch my gray rock video. In fact, I had one years ago. I made something about gray rocking for the holidays, and the holidays are coming up, so you may want to watch that video. And, gray rocking is basically not reacting, being neutral with your emotions, regardless of what the narcissist does. They want to see that reaction in you. And a lot of times, this game playing in denial and accusing you and projecting on you what they did, they need that supply. They need that reaction, whether it's a rage that you give back to them, or you start defending yourself, or you get all upset. They love it. They love it. You're giving them attention, and attention in any form gives them that energy and fuel. It's basically no contact, low, no contact. Some of you can't go no contact. Um, so as low as you can get, and try not to react, guys. Try not to react. So when narcissists be like, what elephant in the middle of the room? Just know these tactics that they use to deflect the subject, and always try to bring them back to the subject. Don't let them have your head spin all around with these different things and different deflective moves that they make. Bring them back to the subject at hand calmly. Try not to react, and don't give them that fuel of getting upset. Just be calm and, repeat the question. You're not answering my question. I asked this. I didn't talk about that. And chances are the narcissist will either leave, or, again, after attempts flipping it back on you, they'll realize they can't do that anymore. Now, will they be accountable? No, probably not. Probably not. Most times not. They'll probably just leave in, frustration. So just know there's no closure with a narcissist. You're not going to get the answers and the apologies that you long for for most of you. I've never heard of it anyway. If they can't flip it back on you, then guess what? They're not getting their fuel, and they're going to eventually kind of give up, because what they're looking for is that reaction, guys. You know it, and I know it. So anyway, guys, stay safe and take heed to these manipulations and tactics they use to avoid the topic at hand. And they very rarely show accountability or talk about the elephant in the middle of the room that, guess what, they created. The elephant was put there by them, and yet they deny it. They don't see it. They don't want to talk about it. They'll just dance around it like it's not there. Total deception and total denial of their heinous actions. So anyway, guys, I hope this was helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know if this has happened to you. Let me know if they've used any of these tactics against you when you tried to bring up an important subject or talk about their offenses, and trying to have them either give an apology or have some kind of accountability. Chances are, it doesn't work with these types. They have reprobate minds. Reprobate minds are unchangeable. They just keep repeating the same behavior, and it doesn't matter how many warnings or ultimatums they get, or how many people they've hurt. They just don't care. That's how we know these are the ones they talk about in 2 Timothy 3. Evil is good and good is evil. And, they have lawlessness. They just don't care. So let me know what you think, guys. And know I'm thinking of all of you. Make sure you follow on Facebook, X, and Rumble, guys. And if anybody would like one-on-one Christian guidance, please email me at angelhavenministry@gmail.com, and I'll be sure to get back to you on how to do that. Put your prayer requests in the comments below if you would like prayer as well. And I'll see you next time, guys. Love you all. Bye-bye.